Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Mobile App Academy, where we show you how to build and deploy mobile apps on the ServiceNow platform. My name is David Ha, and I'm an outbound product manager here at ServiceNow. I also have Fu Ho with me, who is a solution architect on the mobile team here at ServiceNow as well. And we want to give a warm welcome to everyone joining us live here today. If you are joining us live, let us know where you're coming from and who you are. If you're brand new to using the new mobile apps at ServiceNow, definitely let us know in the chat as well. We love getting insight from all of you, whether it's from here, from mobile community. What we like to do is we like to put together these mobile app academy sessions based on what we hear and what you want to learn more about. And based on popular request, this week we will be walking you through ServiceNow's core mobile security features. And we're going to walk you through some of the built-in device security features on how to enable common data loss prevention policies that you can take advantage of out of the box. So we're going to start off by giving you a quick overview on our enterprise grade mobile security features. So this includes the built-in security controls and data loss prevention controls, such as restrict copy and paste, enforcing PIN code, and enabling your device's biometrics for app PIN. And we're actually going to show you how you can configure some of those properties on your instance and get them running. And then we'll also cover AppConfig and common things to know around MDM, as well as our MAM, or Mobile Application Management support for the ServiceNow mobile apps. And then if we have time at the end, we'll also cover mobile branding and the mobile branding journey. So that's for today's topic. If you are new to mobile and new to mobile security, we do recommend that you check out our product documentation, mobile community site, as well as the Customer Success Center, where you can learn a lot more of the detailed information. Our product documentation will provide you all the features and capabilities that we support around built-in security controls, encryption, data loss prevention, MAM, MDM, and really anything that's related to mobile security. And then on our mobile community site, you'll find a quick link to our security FAQ that will answer many of the commonly asked questions. And then on our Customer Success Center, you'll find that we've created a success quick answers around the ServiceNow mobile deployment and how you can deploy your ServiceNow mobile apps. If you're new to exploring any of these topics, we recommend that you check out all of that content and have follow-up discussions with your internal security teams so that you can best figure out how you can comply with your company's security and compliance policies, while also bringing together the best mobile experience for your employees. Okay. Also a reminder, our Mobile App Academy will take place on Orlando instance. So some of the topics like MAM SDKs that are, these kind of features are only supported on the Orlando instances and beyond. But the core device security capabilities and data loss prevention controls are supported across any instance that's beyond Madrid. With that said, today's session will last about an hour. Please feel free to ask us any questions at any point in time. We'll take breaks to answer questions, and then we'll also use the remaining time at the end to go over your questions. So if you have any questions through today's presentation, feel free to send them over in the Q&A section of Zoom. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and dive into a quick overview of our core security features for mobile. But before we actually start talking about the built-in core security features that the ServiceNow mobile apps provide, let's actually first talk about mobile security in general. Why do mobile devices pose an increased security risk, you might ask? So here are some of the common key challenges that many organizations face when dealing with any enterprise mobile solution. First, you have data loss. Whether you manage your employees' mobile devices or you have a bring your own device policy, there's always that risk of that your employee's device going missing, whether it was lost somewhere or it got stolen. And when that device goes missing, you can possibly lose control over that device and any corporate information that's stored on it. So that's definitely a big issue and concern for many organizations. The second challenge is trying to mitigate risk with your employees' personal devices. We're starting to see more and more companies implement bring your own device policy, which allows employees to use their own device whenever accessing corporate data for it. And for our example, right, that's ServiceNow mobile apps. Being able to download the ServiceNow agent or Now Mobile or onboarding app on a personal device. And so if you let your users access that enterprise data, how can you mitigate your risk in case that data is leaked or if it's even compromised from malicious apps? And so what this really drills down to is, what are the extra layers of security that I can implement to protect this information? And then the last risk here is, you have unsecured networks. So when your employees are using a personal device and they're logging into a public Wi-Fi network, like when they're at a hotel or an airport, your employee's device is at greater risk to attackers, and those attackers being able to intercept that sensitive corporate information. So so these are some of the common mobile security risks that any organization might face when dealing with enterprise mobile solutions. But with all of this in mind, we've accounted for these risks and challenges that those organizations may face. So a highlight of our mobile platform is our enterprise-grade security. Whether your organization has any MDM or MAM requirements, you should know that our security capabilities can be deployed in any customer environment. We have built-in security controls, encryption, data loss prevention policies, and lots of this device security information that, again, you can find more listed in the product docs. We also support managed or company purchase phones with common MDM configurations that we'll go into a little bit more in a bit. But another key capability that we released in Orlando are the client-specific MAM configurations for Intune and BlackBerry, which we'll also go over in a bit as well. But starting with our built-in security controls for organizations that might not have any EMM at all, these are security features that you can still take advantage of. In case you're new and unfamiliar with ServiceNow's security topics, so first we'll talk about ServiceNow's data and permissions. So your ServiceNow admins and developers, they can provide access or revoke access to any data or functions that you want to set as the admin. So your mobile end users will never be able to access more data than they are granted. And an example of this is, you can build out a landing page for an ITSM fulfiller and a separate landing page for your ITSM managers. You can apply roles to those landing pages so that your fulfillers can only access their own landing page and never the manager's landing page. And I'll actually show you a quick example of how you can configure that in a little bit. But moving on to data security. So our ServiceNow mobile apps do use SSL TLS v1.2 for over-the-air communication encryption. And our OAuth authorization endpoints are HTTPS only. So that's for data security. For authentication, all of our components on our ServiceNow mobile apps do require user authentication at the point of access, and they are required to log into an instance on their mobile device. And ServiceNow uses OAuth 2.0 for authentication through username and password login, or through single sign-on credentials. And some of the features that we support for authentication include local login, as well as multi-provider single sign-on, such as using Okta or Azure AD. Okay, and to protect a device that is stolen or goes missing, we do have data protection security controls. So our mobile apps do not store record data, such as incidents or cases, unless your organizations have specifically enabled offline cache syncing for field service. But even that data is encrypted with FIPS 142 validated modules. And really the only application preference data that we do save are things like home screen name or the instance name, which is stored and cached locally on your device. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Zoom comments and chat, and we'll definitely answer them if you have any further questions around this. But lastly, another layer of security that you can add to your mobile apps is our data loss prevention features. So these security features you can take advantage of even if your device or app isn't managed with EMM. And some of these features include restricting your users from being able to copy and paste from within their ServiceNow mobile apps. So this is helpful if you're trying to block users from being able to copy and paste any corporate data into something like their emails or a third-party app. You can also enforce a PIN code anytime your employees open up the app. So this is another layer of security in case that employee device gets stolen or hijacked. And then lastly, you can also enable a blur option. So this blur feature allows you to blur the mobile apps anytime it's not in use or running in the background. So really, if your employees are using their devices for personal use, and someone looks over the shoulder, they're not accidentally leaking any corporate data, even if that happens. Okay, So I'll actually show you how to configure each one of these properties on my instance in just a few minutes as well. So moving on to MDM for organizations. So any organization that uses company purchase or managed devices. So we do support all major MDM providers, such as AirWatch, Intune, Mobile Iron, and so forth, which we have a whole lot more details on our product docs. We also support common MDM configurations for our ServiceNow mobile apps, such as the remote device wipe, jailbreak detection, and so forth. And Fu's actually going to go give a walkthrough later using AppConfig and some of the common configurations that get asked all the time, such as pre-configuring your default instance, as well as changing your default browser. Okay, so that's MDM. Another key capability that we released in Orlando are our client-specific MAM configurations for Intune and BlackBerry. So if you didn't already know, we've integrated with Microsoft Intune as well as BlackBerry Dynamics into our mobile apps. And this helps organizations with policy enforcement as well as management of their ServiceNow mobile apps. And so your ServiceNow admins can now configure their MAM policies within their consoles. And we actually did a deep dive on MAM on a previous Mobile App Academy. So if you're interested in learning more, please watch our recorded App Academy on the Now Community YouTube channel. In case you are unfamiliar, let me share my screen and I'll show you how you can pull up the Mobile App Academy. So let me do a new screen share of my desktop. Okay. I think you should be able to see my desktop. Feel free to jump in if you're not seeing my screen. But if I go into YouTube and if I do a quick search on Mobile App Academy, you're going to see this playlist of about 11 videos or 13 videos. And here's all of our videos on the App Academy in the past. And we did a deep dive on mobile application management, which you can find here. It's this 30-minute video. Feel free to check that out if you haven't already. So, okay. So that kind of wraps up a very quick overview of our core mobile security features. And what I want to do next actually is show you how you can apply some of your security features and policies within your apps. Starting with how to control your app's read and write permissions for your end users. So this is if you're really new to mobile, you don't quite understand how you can restrict data access as well as function access to your end users. So I'm actually going to use just a few minutes to explain that. All right. And we're actually going to use the manager dashboard that we built during the last academy to showcase this. So last week, we built a manager dashboard that shows me a quick view of my team's members' incident backlogs. So let me pull that up really quick. And this might be a view that I wouldn't want other teams or individuals to see other than that manager. And so you can actually apply roles to your app launchers or applets so that only users with those roles can have access to these reports. So I'm currently logged in as a manager user, David, and you can see that I have no problem seeing my manager dashboard at the moment. So I can open up all these reports. There's currently no restrictions from me being able to access this data here. And if I open up any of these reports, I should also have access to functions. It doesn't look like I have any functions, but I think some out of the box. So I have a function here, navigate to KB. I also have access to these functions. If there's any functions that I don't want my manager from having access to, I would simply not provide. I would simply not configure the function for my manager role, right? I can apply the role to the function, and only the users with this role would be able to access those functions. If there's any fields that I want to restrict for my manager from seeing, I would simply just not show those fields on this applet, right? So I can use Mobile Studio to remove those fields if I don't want my end users from having those read access to. So I'll actually show you what I mean by that. So if I log back out, I'm going to log back in with another user that is not currently a manager. I'm going to log in with Beth England. Okay. Oh, so it looks like I was actually logged in as Beth. Okay. So let's actually log in one time. So I log in. I'm going to log in as Beth. And Beth, if I'm currently logged in as Beth, she's not a manager user that I want access to the dashboard. But as you can see, I'm logged in as Beth, and I still can access that dashboard. So how would I restrict her from being able to access these reports? So let me go ahead and jump into my instance now. I'm gonna log into my instance with an admin role. And then I'm gonna jump into Studio, okay? So the only users that I want access to this app launcher are users that have the role ITIL manager or ITIL admin. So I'm gonna open up this manager dashboard. And I'm going to apply a role to this entire app launcher, this entire landing page. That way, Beth won't be able to access this anymore. So if I open up my app launcher, you're gonna see this little avatar icon here at the top right for roles. And if I apply the role ITIL admin, which is a role that Beth currently does not have, I click done and then I click save. If I log out and log back in, Beth should no longer be able to access this report. So let me log back out. I'm gonna log back in as Beth. And then if I go to settings, here you can see I can no longer access that entire landing page. So that's a way that you can restrict different landing pages and applet launchers by different groups and roles, right? Another thing that you can restrict are you can apply roles to specific applets. So for example, I currently have a My Work applet launcher, and this shows me my work for critical instance, my instance, and incident at risk. So if I didn't want Beth to be able to access instance at risk for some reason, maybe this is not the right role. You can have multiple roles sharing a single applet launcher if you wanted, but if you had multiple roles and you only wanted one role to access one of these reports and be able to have that dynamic view depending on which user logs in, I can actually apply the roles to the applet itself. So let's actually apply the ITIL manager role or ITIL admin role to instance at risk. That way Beth can also not see this applet. So we're gonna open up, we're gonna switch into this My Work app launcher. So let's switch the scope. And I think this is using the out-of-the-box ITSM Mobile. So we'll switch into ITSM Mobile. We'll look up incident at risk. This might be the wrong one. ITSM Mobile Agent, here it is, okay. So we'll look up incident at risk. And then we'll apply the role here as well. ITIL admin. Click done, and we'll click save. So now if I refresh my landing page, looks like I'll need to log out and log back in actually. So let's actually log out and log back in to refresh those changes. And then I'm going to log back in as Beth. And it looks like Beth can still see instance at risk. That's odd. Let's see if I check roles, ITIL admin. Fu, do you think possibly that applying the role permissions at the applet level will only just hide the records, but you'll still see the applet? I wonder if this is expected behavior. What do you think? And we could possibly test this again. So if I were to apply this role to critical instance, for example, maybe it will just end up hiding all these records here. So if I apply role to critical instance and do ITIL admin only, done and save, and then I refresh, maybe it's just gonna restrict all of the records here. Yep, so, So it completely hid the critical instance one for me. For some reason, instance at risk isn't disappearing though. So let's open up critical instance again, or instance at risk. So it worked properly for a critical instance. So let's try instance at risk one more time. Okay. Oh, it looks like the role disappeared. Okay, so maybe it didn't save properly. So we'll apply ITIL admin again. Click done and save. And maybe it should disappear now. So if I refresh, still not disappearing. So if I close instant at risk and open again, will it disappear? Oops. Let's close all my tabs. Instant at risk.
Hey, David, there's 2 incidents at risk.
Oh, there's instant.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so that's probably possibly why.
Maybe that's why it's getting confused. There's
Okay, good catch. Let's apply it to both of these and then see if it disappears. There we go. Okay, so it's probably this one. So I'm just gonna do ITIL admin and click save. Hopefully this resolves the issue. So if I refresh, and there you're right. So I just applied it to the wrong applet. Good save. So let's undo the critical instance because I actually need that. Critical instance. I still want Beth to have access to this. Okay, so there you can see that I can also restrict view access from Beth by applying roles to the individual applets as well. In case you have a applet launcher where it's a dynamic app launcher where there's multiple roles being able to access this. Okay. Critical instance. I saved it, done, save. Is there another critical? Let's make sure I'm opening the right one. Okay. I should be able to access this now. There it is. Okay, cool. So the next thing I also want to go over is being able to, sometimes we'll get questions on community that says, how do I control the read access so that my users aren't seeing specific fields or tables that they shouldn't be seeing? And really, when you're talking about mobile, your end users don't have access to those tables or fields unless you show them on Studio, right? So I have a critical instance applet. I open a record. My end user Beth can see these fields because I placed them there, right? So if I open up my critical instance, you can see here that I'm showing E1 to E5 state to caller, and I selected those fields for Beth to see, and I have a role applied, right? If I didn't want Beth to see, for example, impact, I would just open up the form screen and body, and I would remove impact from that applet. I save and I refresh, Beth should no longer see that impact field. So really, your end users don't have view or read access unless you are actually configuring that and putting those fields on those reports for them. Okay. Same thing applies to functions, right? Beth doesn't have any access to functions unless I specifically configure those functions. Let's say that let's configure an update function. Let's say that I want to provide Beth the ability to be able to assign critical instance to herself. She doesn't currently have that function, right? So she doesn't have any write capabilities yet until I configure that using Mobile Studio. So let's configure that now. We're gonna create a new function that allows Beth to write to the instant table, specifically being able to update, being able to assign instance to herself. So I'll start by creating a new function, a new action item. If you're unfamiliar with creating functions and action items or write back functions, please check out our some of the product documentation and labs that we already have available. Check out mobile community. And you look at our highlighted feature content list, there is an article on starting on mobile app for customer. So if you're completely new, this is a great resource to get hands-on training. So you look at number 2, there's hands-on training with Mobile Studio and ServiceNow Agent. If you take some of these courses, it'll teach you about functions, data items, applets, all those good things. So I am going to go through this quickly. In case if this is confusing, please check out some of those resources that we have available. So let's create a new update function now. I'm going to call this, we'll give this a second to load. Okay, so we're going to create an update function that allows me to assign it to myself. The type is update, and the table is incident. So I'm giving Beth the ability to write to the incident table. I'm going to click submit. So if you're curious, how do I know if there's only certain fields that I want Beth to be able to access, right, from the incident table? I don't want her access to all the fields. That's where the primers come in, right? She won't be able to write to that to specific fields, or she won't have access to those fields unless you specify it in your action. So I actually want her to be able to update the assigned to field. And the assigned to fields can be a string. So now that my action item has an item parameter, my action item is now done. And then I just have to map my assigned to field that's coming from this table and map it to this item parameter. Okay, and then we'll save. So I've created an action item, I've created the item parameter, and I've mapped the item parameter back to the assigned to field that lives on this table. So now I can see that this action item is done. The last thing I have to do is just create the action function. I'll create a new action function. And then we'll also call this assign to myself. And this is going to be a record, right? Because the user is updating the record. And the action item is called assign to myself. Assign an incident to myself. And then we'll submit. We'll select the table, which is incident, and then submit. Okay. So now I have to create the UI parameters for the assigned to field. So we'll scroll down, click create new UI parameter. And this UI parameter is the assigned to field. The input source is user input. I do want this to be a search list, or no, I want this to be, I actually want this to be an autofill. So let's change input source to autofill. And the autofill is going to be the user, right? So anytime when Beth clicks on the assign to function here, it'll automatically input her user ID. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and submit. Now that I've created the UI parameter, all I have to do is map my item parameter back to the UI parameter. So we'll open up action parameter mappings, create a new mapping, and we'll map assign to item parameter and map it to UI parameter. Okay. So now I've completed my action function. Now I just have to associate this back to my critical instance. So let's open up critical instance. And let's actually put this in the, if I open up a record, I want Beth to be able to quickly assign this to herself by clicking on a footer function. So let's put in the footer. We'll open up the body on the form screen. And then underneath here, you can see footer functions. And we'll say assign to myself. And then we'll select the action function assign incident to myself. And then we'll click save. Save. Okay. So now if I refresh this applet and click into the record, I should be able to assign this to myself. One more thing is I want to, let's say that, I only want Beth to be able to see this button if it meets a certain criteria. And the criteria is that the status must be new. So to do that, all we would do is go back into the action function, right? And we'll set the condition on the action function so that the state of the incident is always new. That way, if the incident is in progress, Beth won't be able to steal that incident from another user. So we'll go ahead and save this. And then if I refresh my landing page, I click see all. In progress, I won't see the function to assign to myself, right? So Beth won't won't be able to write to any records that she shouldn't be able to. And then if I click on a new incident, she will be able to assign that to herself. So I'll click assign to myself. And there you can see it goes to in progress. And it gets assigned to her. Okay. So that's one other thing I want to show is, let's say that I only want this function available to those ITIL fulfillers, right? Let's say that this applet landing page, applet launcher is shared by multiple roles. And the only role that I want access to that function is the teammate that the people on Beth's team, which is the ITIL fulfillers. So I can also apply roles to my functions. I think the role is on the action item, I believe. So let's look up assign to myself. So it's possible that the role, you can only access roles for actions on Platform UI. So let's actually navigate outside to Platform. And then we're going to look up functions. And then we're going to look up the function that we created, which is assign to myself. So here you can see that there is a field for roles on Platform UI, but it doesn't seem like I can see that role on Studio. Let's double check to make sure. Oh, okay. No, I just missed it. No, so you can't do it in Mobile Studio. So if you open up the action function, there's a little field for roles. And then let's apply this to only ITIL. If I can find it, let's scroll to ITIL. Okay, ITIL. Click done. So now only users that have the role of ITIL should be able to access that button. Right, so I would have to log out with another role that doesn't have ITIL. But just to save time, I think you kind of get the gist of it. So that's basically how you control your permissions of being able to control your read and write permissions for your end users. Okay. So the next thing I actually want to jump into are the out-of-the-box data loss prevention controls that you can set up on your instance. Right, so these are the built-in security controls that you can access even if you don't have MAM or MDM. These are some of the baseline things that you can do to secure your corporate data in case a personal device is lost, stolen, or compromised. So to see all the security controls that we do have available, let's open up product docs. And if I open up product docs for Orlando, by the way, the Paris product documentation, we revamped it. I highly recommend that you use Paris product documentation just because it's a lot more organized. If you're new to mobile, we organize the left-hand nav so that it's just much easier to understand. But let me show you what it looks like in Orlando. If you open up Agent Mobile and you open device security, you'll be able to access the device security for ServiceNow Mobile. And on the right-hand side, if you scroll down to security controls, these are some of the controls that you have access and you're able to control out of the box. You can see that there's security controls for restrict copy and paste, require an app pin, disabling attachment, and enable blur. Okay, so we're gonna configure some of these. In order to enable these, all you have to do is set the properties to true on your instance. So let's go and do that now. Let's use it for restrict copy and paste. So I'm gonna jump back into my instance. We're gonna open up the sys property table. And to enable restrict copy and paste, all you have to do is you're going to click on configure clear clipboard. And it tells you that you should create a new property called glide.sg. Okay. So we have a task to update this, but this is actually the incorrect sys property name. The correct sys property name is actually glide.sg.clear, pasteboard one background. But yeah, this will get updated. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna take this sys property name. We're gonna create a new property, change the type to true and false, and set the value to true. So let's do this on our instance. Before you create any new property, make sure that this property doesn't already exist. And I believe this property already exists on my instance, but the value is currently set to false. If you were to create this from scratch, all you would do is make sure that you're in the global scope. And then you create new property. You paste that property name, glide.sg underscore dot clear underscore paste board one background. You change the type to true false and you set the value to true. So that's all it takes to enable this property. So I'm not going to submit because I already have this property. And all I'm going to do is set this property to true. Okay. Once I have this property true, all I have to do is refresh my mobile app, or I actually have to do a log out and log back in. We're going to log in. Okay, so let me demonstrate that my copy and paste does work. I'm gonna go to Safari and I'm gonna copy google.com. All right, so I'm gonna do a select all, copy. Let's say I wanted to paste this into my clipboard. It should work. I'm gonna paste. So it does currently paste google.com. But if I go into my agent app and I try to copy the category, for example, something that's a bit more sensitive, maybe, I don't know, maybe description, you definitely don't want your end users to be able to quickly copy and paste, even if it's by accident. So we'll copy in this, paste it into the clipboard, and you're gonna see that it doesn't work, right? So that's how you enable the restrict copy and paste property. Let's do it for a couple more. Next thing I wanna show you is how you can where did it go? Let's show blur. Where did blur go? Okay, so let's actually enable the blur app property as well. So this is also the wrong property. We're going to update that soon. The correct one is glide sg blur UI one background. So let's enable this on our instance. I think I already have this property created, so we're going to double check that. Looks like I already set the value to true. So let me demonstrate what that looks like here. So if I open up my agent app, anytime that this agent app is in the background, and let's say that there's a stranger that just looks over my shoulder on accident, I don't want them to be able to see that sensitive data. So uh, I currently have this as my primary app. I'm opening it. It's not quite in the background yet, but as soon as I go to my home screen, or if I open up a different app, if I swipe, I no longer can see the screen on agent. Right, so it blurs it in the background. But if you already have the app and it's running in the foreground, it won't blur. But once I get to my home screen, it does start blurring. Okay. So if your employees are using their devices for personal use, and they're off work, they won't reveal corporate data on accident, even if it's unintentional. Okay. The last property I'll show real quick is requiring an app pin. Okay. So requiring an app pin, the property name here is also wrong, and we will update this very soon. The correct property name is, wait, let me double check. Is this the right require app pin? It's glide.sg require mobile application pin. Actually, so the require app pin is correct. So this works fine. So I'm actually going to copy this from product docs. All right, we'll check to see if this property already exists on my instance. It does, and it's currently false. So let's set this to true and see what happens. So the use case here for requiring an application pin is, even if you don't have an MEM or MDM, you can still apply another layer of security. Anytime the app is not in use, it's going to require a user to enter that app pin. So if the device is lost or stolen or compromised, even if the stranger wanted to get into the ServiceNow mobile apps, they'll still need to go through the app pin in order to access it. Okay. So let's log out and log back in. So this app pin will invoke when they first log in, and then it will also require the app pin after every 5 minutes. So being able to control the time limit is not currently something you can control today, but that's something that we're looking into in the future. So let's log back in. When you first enable this for all your end users, it's going to ask that you first set the 6-digit PIN that you want. Which it didn't. So let's double check to make sure this PIN is working. Let's open sys properties again. Let's make sure I have the right sys property name. So it's currently set to true. Okay. Let's close that, open this back up. Any thoughts, Fu, on why I didn't invoke the app pin quite yet?
Let's see, did you invoke it?
So I need to set anything on my device, my local device. So do I need to set up passcode?
You already did that for your, oh, you did not.
Well, this is for Face ID, this is for biometrics.
Your turn on, okay, that's passcode's on. And so when you, relog in, it didn't ask, oh, I think it's like I believe there's like a 5-minute rule, right? Did you mention that?
Right, so there is a 5-minute rule, and that might be a possibility. Oh, yes, so yeah, there's a 5-minute rule. But I would have expected that it maybe.
Well, so basically this pin means that if there's inactivity of the application, there's a hard-coded 5-minute rule that will kick in, and it will force your user to enter the pin.
Gotcha. Okay. So just for the sake of time, we're not going to wait 5 minutes, but this is how you turn on the pin. We tested it earlier this morning, and it does work. So This is the sys property name. You just set the value to true. Okay, so that's pretty much some of the device security features that I wanted to show. And with that, let's actually transition over to some of the MDM concepts.
Yeah, so I have someone asked about, there's one more DLP that we didn't cover, which is disabling the attachments. And so I know you didn't cover it, but I'll try to cover it here. It's a little tricky, so I will see if I can show it. I won't be able to demo it completely, but I will give you a start where to look for. So let me share my screen. Okay, so one portion of DLP in our product docs is that you can actually disable the ability to upload attachment. So for example, hey, I don't want you to send me a picture. And the other thing is, that's the create. And the other thing is, I don't want the ability for you to look at an attachment, like an image or whatever, right? And that's typically, so in an incident, you'll see the attachment on your activity stream, right? And so in order for you to disable it, what you need to do is, if you look at the product docs, the first thing you need to do is, as an admin, you have to elevate your role to security admin. Okay, once you do that, you go to ACL, and then what you want to do is search for the sys_attachment control. And you can see there's a whole bunch of these sys attachments. So this is why it's a little tricky. So the first thing what you want to do is, hey, I want to disable the ability for the user to upload an image. So you look at the operations, and what you want to do is you want to look for create, right click, and then say show matching. And now we filter down to these guys. You don't really care about these HR ones, this application scope. What you want to care about is the global. Now, there's this one which doesn't pertain to us, and then there's this one which doesn't pertain to us. It's these two. So you don't know which one to use. So let's click on one of them. This is where it gets kind of a little tricky. You have to do it within a script. So this one is to all users for a catalog, service catalog, which doesn't apply to us. So go back and then look for this one. I think this is the one that we have. Yeah, this is for field service. So now you have this script, you have this ACL script, okay? And so you go down to the bottom. You notice how this answer calls this function, which is this guy. What you can do is, if you look at the product docs, let's see, let's go to ServiceNow. ServiceNow Mobile Security, I believe. Let's go here. At the bottom, there's a thing called attachments right here. What you want to do is copy this script right here, this if statement, and it just detects for if it's mobile, and then it's just the answer is returned to false. So you notice how it's always returning this answer, always calling this function. All you do is just put it right, right here, so that it would call this after this guy. And now you will disable the ability to upload. Okay, so now, so that's done. So let's hit update that. I won't demo this. I won't demo this on my phone. The other one thing you want to do is you want to look at the read operation. And read operations is a lot more. Again, ignore the HR stuff. In global, it's hard to tell which one. So you basically have to go in. This one is, I don't think this is the knowledge base, is not it. So you have to go in because they all have the same access control. This one looks it. So basically look for this one, allow read for records in this. And again, same thing, apply this little if statement, and this is how you disable attachments.
We have a question. Could you help explain the use case or clarify the use case? So we have a question. What is the significance of enabling this? Why would end users care about this?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So basically, you don't want, for specific users, let's say, for example, you're out in the field and you're uploading it. You're on the field, you're taking a picture of, like, let's say a printer or something, and you want to upload, be able to upload this image to attach to the incident. Sometimes you just don't want to do that. You only want it to do it only within the platform itself. Like, do not take a picture using your phone, only upload it to your MacBook or your computer, and then go to the instance and then upload it through platform. So like your typical here.
So would this potentially block uploading attachments on the activity share? So if you're working on instant, you wanted to upload.
So the ACL that I showed you, it only applies to mobile. That if statement right here, this detects for if it's coming from mobile, the ACL will apply for mobile only. So that's why it's always returning false, which will block it. So I think the use case here is that don't allow, I don't want you to read or write anything from a mobile device. I just want you to do it on platform. I think that's the use case that we've seen from customers, and that's why we have it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Another question is, how does this differentiate from ACLs? Can I also use the ACL to block, or must I use this?
That is the ACL. That was the ACL that I used to block. So again, I showed you, if we go to ACL, it is a sys property in ACL.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Okay. Let's see. I would like to, we won't have enough time because I wanted to show branding and also AppConfig. Maybe I have time for AppConfig.
Let's show AppConfig, yeah.
Okay. So in the beginning, David talked about MDM, EMM, and MAM. So let me talk about, okay, so if you go to our product docs, and you come down to, let's see. Okay, so let me mix. Okay, so when you go to our product docs, you get this menu, and you can see that there's demos of agent now and onboarding and so forth. When you open up the configuration, we give you some basic components, like we talk about the hierarchy, we talk about the mobile studio and so forth, right? But at the very bottom, you'll notice that there's a thing called Enterprise Mobility Management, EMM. And so this shows you that you can register your ServiceNow app with your MDM vendor. So if you click on AirWatch, BlackBerry, and so forth, we have a step-by-step procedure on how to upload your app. But the other thing that that you might be wondering is that when your users download the application, your users have to basically type in the URL of your instance. Okay, customers don't want that because it's kind of painful to do that, especially when your URL is long. So there's a thing called app configuration, which is a key value pair. And all MDM vendors have the ability to add a key value to an app config. And so what this allows you to do is when the user downloads the application. They will see the URL instance, and all they have to do is just click on it, and they won't have to, they don't have to type it in. I will show you a demo of that in a little bit. So this is under here. You notice how it's AppConfig, and we only show you one key. There is another key that is not in this section. It is actually a security, which is called under mobile authentication. And then you go down to specify a mobile browser. So let me tell you what this means. So some organizations do not allow specific mobile browsers. By default, when you install the application and you log in, it is actually using the default browser. So if you're on iOS, the user will get a Safari browser to log in. When you're on Chrome, when you're on Android, we will give you a Chrome. Now, some organization block these kind of browsers, and they only want specific browsers, approved browsers. For example, if you're in a Microsoft environment, they only allow Edge browser, or if you're in a BlackBerry, you can only use the BlackBerry browser. So to get around that, what you need to do is, again, use this key value, and then add this key, and add this value for iOS and Android. And so to illustrate that, I'm going to go over to my Intune instance. So this is Intune. So what I did was I created a policy. And this policy says that I want to apply the ServiceNow agent for Intune. Now for Intune, okay? You can also do it for ServiceNow agent without the Intunes, but in order for you to do that, you have to make sure the application is registered and that the device is registered as well. So I don't want to get into the details of it, but when you do this Intune version, you can actually allow personal devices to set your configuration. So in this settings here, you just click on edit. And again, so let's go down to EMM. And I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to copy this key. This is case sensitive too, so make sure you spell it right. And you want to do is you want to do the entire URL, my instance, .servicenow. Make sure you have the entire URL here, and not just the my instance name. The second thing you want to do is, this is optional. If you do have that security, what you want to go is go to mobile authentication under specify mobile browser. I want to add the iOS version, add this guy, and I want the Edge. And then I also want it for Android as well. And then I also want it for Edge. And so this is how you set and this is how you set the policy. So you assign it to a group. So I just created a dummy group. And when your users log in and they're within this group, they will automatically get this instance. And by default, the browser will launch the Edge. If you want to see a live demo on that, you can look at the video that we did a while ago, and David had it mentioned it in one of our episodes. So we don't have any more time to show other things, but is there any other questions, David, that you see?
Were there any other things that you want to show? We can probably go a little bit over since it will be going to the recording. If people have to leave early, that works too. Is there anything else that you want to show? Not mobile branding, but any other app config stuff?
No, those are the only two configs. I think we'll talk about branding another time, but okay. Those are the only two configs that we support. You might have, you notice that we have these keys for browsers. We don't have every browser types, but eventually we will get, for example, like Citrix or IBM, if they have a browser. You notice that we only support these browsers right now, but eventually we will support others when there's a demand.
Perfect. Thanks, Fu. Alrighty, let's go and open up to Q&A. We are at the top of the hour. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us. And again, it's open-ended. It doesn't have to be around mobile security. Feel free to ask us any questions. I do want to mention one thing. We are uploading this recording onto mobile community as well. If you have any follow-up questions, you can also post directly to that article that we will upload in the next couple of days. Okay, if there's no other questions, let's go and wrap it up. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you found this session informative and helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to keep posting on our mobile community site so that we can explore other configurations in the future. Thank you for joining us this week, and we hope to see you next week at the next Mobile App Academy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Cheers.